When should I tell my principal that I'm looking for a new job? This is a question that has lots of different answers depending on lots of different circumstances. So let's go ahead and dive in.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarbett, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about one of the questions that I see, especially this time of year, posted in like music teacher Facebook groups, which is, when should I tell my principal that either I'm looking for a job, I have a new job, I have an interview, I'm not coming back? Like, when do we have that conversation? And it's a doozy, right? Like, that is a heavy conversation, and there's so much nuance that goes into it. So let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, I want to clarify that the first thing that you want to do is be aware of the things that you have to do, right? I know in most states you have to resign by a certain date, or the school district can essentially hold on to your license. So just be aware of those, and also look into your teacher contracts, because sometimes your teacher contracts will specify specific dates where things have to be done. So just be aware of that. So that's kind of those things that, like, there will be some, like, mileage may vary depending on where you are, and what your policies are. But let's dive into kind of my little thoughts on this, because I have like I have many thoughts. So first of all, I think it's important to keep the professionalism there, but also I think it's important for us as teachers to kind of keep a little bit of confidentiality. I never, I interviewed many times throughout the years for different districts other than the district that I was in, and I never like went out and said, hey, I'm looking for a new job, because early in my career, my administrators, they weren't bad, they weren't toxic, but like I was I wanted a little bit more space. Like I needed a little bit more anonymity there, and I think that was helpful during that time. Now I will say, with the last couple of years, I had absolutely phenomenal administrators, and I also we've been through a lot, we're going through COVID and things like that. So I was just like, hey, like I was very aware. I made them very aware that I feel like I'm drowning. I'm at two different schools. I have hundreds of students. I'm not sure how much longer I can do this in the way that this job is currently structured. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make it very clear that, like, hey, this position is going to be really hard to find someone to do it long term. Whether that's me, the district was growing, so I was like, hey, maybe there's a chance, down the road where things could different things could happen or could be restructured. That was kind of my main thing. I never blatantly said, I'm looking for new jobs and things like that. But at that point, I had already had kind of a really good relationship with my administrators, and I put it all out there. I was just like, hey, like, I love what I get to do. These are some things that are making it really hard for me to fully apply to this. If there's anything that we can do or a plan that we can have in the future, like I'd rather say it than not say it. So that's kind of where we started. I will say, there have been times where I was, a final round candidate for a different position. At that point, I said, hey, I told my principal, hey, you might be getting a message. I am interviewing for this position. At this point, it's still early. It's still like April, May. So things are still early. But like, hey, there might be things happening. I love what I get to do. But as we've talked earlier, I'm open to other options to see what else is out there. And if that is where you can be with your administrators, and within the policies that are set, I think that's a really good place that you can be. Now, with that being said, I am fully aware that there are some administrators that information will be used against you. And I don't want that to happen. So if that is the case, if you do not fully trust your administrators, I would err on the side of, I don't need to tell them anything I don't need to tell them. If it comes to it, they can, they'll get the information they know when they need to know it. So I've done that before. I know teacher friends who have before, who were final round candidates, and at that point they still didn't even tell their principals, and they didn't really tell administrators that they were looking at leaving until they had a new job offer in hand, because sometimes, unfortunately, that is what needs to happen to protect yourself as a teacher. So just be aware of that. I don't want to scare you. I don't want you to say turn it into this huge thing, because the vast majority of administrators out there really are great people who are great educators. But I do feel like it's important to put that out there. Another question I see a lot in these Facebook groups are, should I have my current administrator, as a reference on my application to this other school district? And I think, honestly, if you think that they would give you a good recommendation, that's a really good sign. I'm not saying that, interview committees aren't going to look at people that don't have references that are administrators. But I also think that at that point, that's when you kind of need to be like, hey, can I use you as a letter of can I use you as a reference? I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to put someone down as a reference and not tell them you did that. Because no one likes to be blindsided, right? And kind of think of that from the administrative point of view, right? If you have this teacher who you absolutely love, and you get a call that says, hey, this is so-and-so school district, that we're interviewing them for a job, what can you say about them? At that point, your first reaction is, oh, they're looking for, this is news to me. And like, that's just like not putting them in a great place, but also like their response might be a little weird because they're a little bit caught off guard. So just be aware of that. I think it is good professional courtesy to, if you're going to put someone down as a reference, let them know and ask. And at that point, that's kind of doing the work for you, right? If you trust the administrator enough to do that, and to trust that they would say something great, and they're going to know that you're looking for new jobs. And I think it's important, kind of like I talked earlier, if you're looking for new jobs, really be specific as to why. Especially if you're able to have this open communication with your administrator, because they're really, if they don't know, they can't do anything. They might not be able to do anything anyway, but if they don't know what you don't like about your job, or what you're looking more for in another job, then there's 0% chance they're going to be able to make any changes, even longer term changes. So you got the job. You have accepted the offer. Next year, you're starting in a new district. How do you do the next things? And this is something that honestly was so hard for me. So obviously, I didn't have a new job offer in hand. I was leaving the classroom to run my company full time, but it was hard. Like I said, I developed this great relationship with my administrators, and the day that it was so weird. Like, I knew that I needed to resign. I knew that I needed to make it public. I knew that I didn't want to put my school district in a lurch by waiting. So we're still like, the school year is still happening. Like, we're not even done with the year yet. It's like May. It might have even been April. I don't even remember. But basically, I was like, I woke up one morning and I just said, all right, I guess this is the day. This is the day that I resign. And I wrote a very short resignation letter, and then I met in person with both of my administrators that morning, and just saying, hey, like, this is what's happening. It's hard for me to say, I hate that I have to leave to be able to do this next step. I will say, for the vast majority of administrators, I think it is good professional courtesy to give them an in-person conversation of your resignation. With that being said, I know there are some administrators where that will turn into a whole thing, and you don't owe them that. So after you have a conversation or don't have a conversation, at that point, you will also need to submit it in writing. So for my case, I asked my principals, I was like, hey, I have two principals, like, who do I send this to? And they're like, just send it to the superintendent. I don't know. So I sent my signed letter of resignation to the superintendent, and that was that. A couple of things. First of all, not a lawyer, but in your letter of resignation, be very clear on when you're resigning. If you're resigning, I know that there are certain things where, I'm resigning at the end of the school year versus the end of my contract, could get you in some trouble with benefits. So for instance, for me, I said at the end of my contract, because the end of my contract goes up through the beginning of the next school year. So that made sure I still had benefits throughout the whole thing. Now, obviously, every contract might be a little bit different on how they do severance and things like that. But typically, you should be able to, that's part of your benefits. That your benefits and all your quote unquote summer pay is stuff that you've already earned. It's accrued wages. So just be very clear. Or if you're like, hey, I'm leaving, but I'm going to have new benefits, you might be able to say at the effective at the end of the school year on this date, and they might be able to do give you a severance check, basically give you all of your accrued pay. Every district's going to have a different thing with that, so do with that information what you will. I hope this has been helpful. I will say, having these conversations with your administrators can be really tricky, because there is this kind of power dynamic that if you don't have a really good administrator, it can turn into it can turn into kind of quicksand where everything just kind of gets a little bit out of control. And this thing that wasn't a whole, the thing that really wasn't a thing turns into this whole big thing. And so just be aware that there are certain things you have to do. There are certain things that I think professional courtesy says you should do. And then there are certain things that you have absolutely you don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. And I think that whenever we can offer professional courtesy and also not feel like we're walking into a trap, do it. I think that's just good karma. I think that's good, especially when you're able to if you know here, I don't even know how to make this like not a big jump. So we're just going to do it. But if you know you're leaving and you have a job offer in hand, or if my husband is moving to getting this job over here, so I am moving. Like, if you know all of this is happening, give your district as much time to process this as you can. I think your students deserve to have as much, deserve that, because finding a new teacher in today's day and age, especially one that wants to be in your position and that will do well and fit well with the students, it's not something that they want to do last minute. So that's something when I resigned, I knew that I wanted to give my district as much time as possible to post the position, to get in front of these new grads, to get in front of these, I wanted to make sure that there was enough time that if there was someone that wasn't a new grad, that, they could go through the whole process without getting stuck in their current contract. And I really just wanted to give as much time as possible. And I think that is really where, if you lead with that, especially if you're having these in-person conversations with your admin and say, hey, I don't want anyone to be surprised about this, which is why I'm doing this early. I think that's when, again, karma, you can build up some good karma. And I think when you're able to do that, again, you can't all the time, not every position and not every situation is safe to do that. But when you're able to do that and give like lots of lead time and be very clear about, why you're leaving, and things like that, I think it will be generally well received. With that being said, I hope you have enjoyed this week's episode. If you haven't left us a review on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you're listening, please do so. It really helps us understand what types of topics you like, what you really don't like. It helps us get in front of new music educators just like you. I hope that you have a great rest of your week. And in case nobody has told you lately, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.